straight between the Taimyr Peninsula and the North Earth, polar night. A 60-megawatt nuclear icebreaker is making its way through thick ice and suddenly stops. It hasn't broken down. It hasn't lost momentum. The propellers keep turning. Reactors at full power, but the ship isn't moving an inch. Ahead, a ridge of stacked ice 5 meters high. Behind, a channel that is freezing faster than the ship can back up. 8 in the morning, Moscow time. The shift changes on the bridge. 8 hours later, the same 3 men will be back here. And so it goes for 122 days straight. For an icebreaker, getting stuck in the ice isn't an accident. It's a work situation. And the interesting question arises. If the ship stops hundreds of kilometers from the nearest coast, what is life like for the 54 people on board? 24 hours are not divided into morning, afternoon, and night. They are divided into 4-hour shifts. 240 minutes is the basic unit time in the nuclear fleet. Everything else is adjusted to it. Sleep, meals, training. 3 men work on the bridge. The first officer steers the ship. The officer of the watch monitors navigation. The helmsman repeats every order aloud to avoid misperceptions. In polar darkness, the primary tool is not sight, but the ice chart 20. At 8 o'clock, the ship strikes an ice floe and comes to a stop. A stationary icebreaker can't simply wait because the ice is never still. The ice sheets move with the wind and the currents, and when they collide, they generate compression, the force that actually destroys ships in the Arctic, not the cold. The open channel begins to close immediately. The broken ice refreezes behind the ship. That's why the boatswain reverses instead of shutting the engines. The ship moves backward in its own channel, gains momentum, and rams the ice floe again with its full mass. Bow slides across the ice, loses its grip on the water. Weight breaks the ice sheet from above. Sometimes 1 impact is enough, sometimes 20. Noon. In the central control room, a nuclear 30 physicist monitors the ship's 2 reactors. 2, not 1. In the 3rd Central Arctic, help can't be expected, and every critical system needs a duplicate. When the ship is stuck, energy consumption doesn't decrease, it increases. The heating system runs at full capacity with temperatures at 40 degrees below zero outside. The desalination plant converts seawater into drinking water. Ventilation runs through 15 decks. The reactor of a stuck icebreaker. Move the ship. It produces heat, light, and water. As long as it's running, the ship remains habitable. The difference with diesel is measured in orders of magnitude. An icebreaker of this power running on fossil fuel would need more than 90 tons a day. The reactor consumes on the 2 harshest days less than half a kilogram of uranium. Hence, and possible range for any conventional ship. There are records of 357 consecutive days in the ice without making port. When the battering is not enough, the captain resorts to other methods. Pneumatic washing expels compressed air under the hull to break the friction between the metal and the ice, which is bonded to the ship by a thin film of frozen water. If that doesn't work, thousands of tons of water are pumped between the ballast tanks from one side to the other. The ship tilts 12 degrees and its steel sides fracture the fifth ice by lateral pressure, a method that hasn't changed since 1899. The riskiest method is to turn the stern toward the obstacle and break the ice with the propellers. And fifth, sometimes the correct method is to do nothing. Wait for the wind to change because forcing the hull only wears down the structure. And fifth, the crew. The cooling system of the new icebreakers eliminates even the worst-case scenario. If the reactor had to shut down, heat exchangers using natural draft dissipate the residual heat without needing electricity simply because hot air rises. The crew essentially guards a source of heat. Everything else is secondary. Meanwhile, inside the ship, a normal day unfolds. a labyrinth of 15 decks and 100 rooms, staffed by only 54 people. When there are few people, each one becomes irreplaceable. That's why food is always served at the same time in the polar night, without dawn or dusk. Meal schedule is almost the only marker of time that anyone can cling to. Work on a modern icebreaker, sedentary. That's why there's a gym, a swimming pool, a sauna, and individual cabins for the entire crew. A person who doesn't set foot on land for 4 months needs to be able to isolate themselves without going out, because going out is simply not possible. Boatswain, one of the few with a fixed shift from 8 to 4, covers some 14,000 steps per shift inspecting the deck. Each shove loosens what isn't securely fastened, and his job is to find it before 70 fails. At midnight, the captain opts for the last option, waiting. And here comes the state that polar people consider the most difficult part of the profession. It's not an emergency. It's the situation where nothing happens and nothing depends on you. On an icebreaker, everything is duplicated. 2 reactors, double hull, independent circuits. The only thing that can't be duplicated is a person. Crew selection 7 isn't based on strength, but on the ability to endure the monotony. Those who overcome it have no reason to leave. There are sailors who have spent 28 years on the same ship and entire family dynasties. At 4 in the morning comes the toughest watch of the day, the one sailors call the bitch. Human internal clock drops to its lowest point just before dawn, and in the polar night, there is no dawn to mark it. That's why the shift ends exactly at 240 minutes before the invisible errors begin. At 5:30, the officer on watch notices a change in the wind. Half an hour later, the ice confirms it. A dark band appears where there had been floes. The field opens. After the third onslaught, the ship moves forward. It's 8 in the morning. 24 hours exactly. The reactor didn't stop for a minute. The shifts changed 6 times. The crew ate 3 times at the same time. The hull received dozens of impacts, and people slept with them. The icebreaker was motionless, but no system on board ever stopped. 121 days of voyage remain. In 8 hours, the same 3 men will climb back up to the bridge, and it will all begin again. The same ice, the same gloom, the same search for a clearing among the ice floes. We think that surviving in the Arctic is a feat. On a nuclear icebreaker, surviving is, above all, something much simpler, a schedule that is never broken.